As Deborah suggested, I am Mark Stillwell with University of Missouri Extension and currently serve as the Epsilon Sigma Phi National President. Of course, Epsilon Sigma Phi is the Extension Professionals Association. I would encourage all of you who are Epsilon Sigma Phi members to look around the room and look at your colleagues in the other associations and ask them and invite them to join. We are an over-encompassing organization that has the opportunity for all our organizations, regardless of subject matter expertise, to join and participate in our association. Epsilon Sigma Phi was established back in 1927. And at that time, we recognized that extension professionals needed an opportunity to have continuing professional development opportunities. And Epsilon Sigma Phi saw that as a prime goal and mission of our organization. And since that time, we have also recognized it's important to recognize outstanding leaders within our organization. Since 1927, we have recognized more than 80 leaders across the nation as doing outstanding work and leadership and vision within our extension organization. And we recognize those through our Ruby Distinguished Service Award. As I suggested, we have been recognizing over 80 years, and this year I'm pleased to announce and introduce Dr. Daryl Buchholz from Kansas State University. I had the opportunity to meet Daryl more than 25 years ago when I was recruited to University of Missouri Extension. Daryl was a program leader, I believe, in the agronomy department in soils and soil processes, and he helped me as a young extension professional become successful. And as we looked at his resume and talked to his colleagues, he's continued to do that throughout the years as part of his career. Daryl is currently the Associate Director of Extension and Applied Research with Kansas State University, and he provides vision and leadership, two of the qualities that we look for in our Ruby Award winner. And he also provides the day-to-day operations of the Kansas State Cooperative Extension Service. Currently, Dr. Buchholz is the 2013 chair of the National Extension Committee for Organization and Policy. And we as the JSEP board had an opportunity to meet with Daryl and his colleagues this morning and have a good discussion about the future of extension across the nation. As I looked at the experiences that Daryl has had, it certainly exemplifies what we look for in a Ruby Award winner: the vision, the leadership. Daryl, as part of his leadership role, has established 3 overarching goals to advance the culture of professional excellence, relevance, and quality program and inclusiveness in the programs. He's led a strategic planning process involving citizens and our clientele across the state, again, to identify the future of KSU Extension that conducts relevant, sustainable, high-quality educational programs. He's worked to increase the outreach and extension programs to underserved and diverse audiences, and this includes special emphasis to the Hispanic populations across the state. What I particularly see as valuable in Daryl's experiences is his support and recognizing how valuable it is to have professional development opportunities. Daryl said recently, "I am an advocate for a professional to be active in at least one professional society." He went on to say, "I also advocate for the extension professional to be part of Epsilon Sigma Phi. If you believe yourself to be a professional, you are obligated to seek ways to continue your professional development and growth." Clearly, he has the vision and the leadership that we seek with Epsilon Sigma Phi. One of the other outstanding, probably the most outstanding accomplishment that I see as I read Daryl's resume, he's had long-time marriage to his wife, Joyce. He has 3 grown daughters, 2 sons-in-law, and 1 grandson. Daryl, we appreciate your leadership within Epsilon Sigma Phi and with extension across the nation.
Thank you. Thank you. Mark, thank you so much for that very kind introduction. And I'll just start out by saying that good morning to you all. And as extension professionals, it's great to stand here in front of you It's also nice not to have anyone down here in the hecklers section. We've got you far enough away that tomatoes, I don't know, that you'd have to have a pretty good arm. But maybe there's a pirate pitcher out there, I'm not sure. But it is wonderful to be among all of you and to be among a group of professionals who have chosen extension as their passion and pursuit. It's an honor and a very humbling experience to be selected by my peers to receive this National Distinguished Service Award from Epsilon Sigma Phi. I'm really accepting this award on behalf of the Alpha Rho chapter at Kansas State University. I know darn well that without their hard work in pulling that nomination together, because they did it all, that I would not be standing here in front of you. And in that regard, I would like to have all of the Kansas delegation that's here in the audience today to please stand up and be recognized. Thank you all for being here. As I say, recognition of this sort really cannot be achieved alone, and it's having the great colleagues, mentors, and friends that guide you and direct you through all of this process, and my extension career starting back in 1980 for the past 33 years. The other individual that I want to make sure I recognize this morning is my wife of 33 years, Joyce. You should stand up. As you can probably tell, I sometimes disguise it well, but I do get nervous. And so for all of you out there that think extension directors can get up and just ramble, know that that's not the case. And I've actually got myself a good set of notes, because otherwise you might be here until 2 or 3 o'clock this afternoon, who knows, in all of that. Joyce has been my partner through this extension career, and quite honestly, she's the one that ought to be receiving this Ruby Award. We've also been blessed with 3 wonderful daughters. None of them, where they're at in their career, could see fit to be able to make it here to Pittsburgh today. But I know that they're thinking about me as I get text messages. Those 3 daughters have made us proud in the fact that we've got 5 degrees from Kansas State University among that group, and still counting in actuality. And as Mark had mentioned, our 2 oldest daughters, Joan and Ann, both married, and we have 1 grandson of 16 months, and another one that will be showing up coming in February. And so we're really excited about that. And then our youngest daughter, Jenna, remains in pursuit of her passion and love of computer science and software development. And so she's working hard at that. She's one of those that you refer to the bounce backs. Went out, taught for a few years, said, you know, I just love this technology stuff. I'm coming back. Would it be okay? You guys just finished your basement. Would it be all right if I moved in? And we said, sure. Also told us that she learned something about financial management in those first couple of years as well. But I will tell you that, and you all know this as extension professionals, that your family sacrifices for you in that regard when you're out doing that work and out across the country. The thing I've always appreciated about my wife is that she saw to it that when I was busy out doing all of this work, that there were certain things that had to be on my calendar as a priority for family. And I thank Joyce for keeping me pointed in that direction. A little bit more just about me, and then I'm going to get off of me here shortly. But I've had the great experience. I grew up as an extension family pretty much all of my life. My parents, Lloyd and Elaine, up on the plains of South Dakota, saw to it that, first of all, that I had my faith and to know that God is first and that He's going to help to provide that guidance and direction. And I've never lost that. But the second thing that they saw to it was that I became a member of the Belmont Baby Beef 4-H Club. And with a name like Belmont Baby Beef, you can sort of guess what the main project may have been. But what a great grounding that gave me. And just to give you some notion of the impression that it leaves with you, the only reason I can stand up here and talk today is because of that first health talk that I had to give at the club. Keep healthy, eat eggs. That was the title. But for me, then it was on to South Dakota State University to work on my bachelor's degree and to be that first generation of college graduates, both for my sister and myself. My dad always talked about a college education to which he didn't have the chance to do. And so he saw to it that his children were going to have a college education, and he also saw to it that his grandchildren were going to have college education. How many of you are first generation college graduates? See those hands? Wow. Look at that. I think yesterday we heard about all of that with the People's College. I'd venture to guess, and I'll ask the question, how many of you are land-grant university first-generation college graduates? Look at that, it's almost the same number of hands. What a wonderful opportunity has been given us. But for me, it was then on, you're unsure as to just exactly what you want to do in life. But somehow I got tied in with extension faculty, even as an undergraduate. Had the opportunity to work on a research station, but the director at that research station actually had an extension appointment. And he was encouraging me to go on to graduate school, and then he up and left and headed to Oklahoma State University. But as he was departing, he said, "Daryl, I want you to apply for an assistantship at Oklahoma State." And so I did, and went down there, did my master's degree at Oklahoma State University, and then with similar kinds of guidance and encouragement, went on for my PhD at Kansas State University. And all throughout that educational path, continuously influenced and inspired by faculty with extension responsibilities. I challenge all of you to think about that for those young people that you're involved with, whether it's 4-H youth or you see those young people heading off to college. Keep encouraging them to move along in that direction. As I finished up my PhD, I did have the opportunity to go to the University of Missouri as an extension specialist in the agronomy department. My area of expertise, soil fertility, nutrient management. Got to run the soil testing program in that state, and I can guarantee you I've been in every county seat in the state of Missouri, just like I've been in every county seat in the state of Kansas, and had a wonderful experience. Spent 12 years at University of Missouri, and then at that time was encouraged and applied for an opportunity to go back to Kansas State University, where I'd gotten that PhD. And that was almost 21 years ago now, but that opportunity was to be Ag Program Leader for Ag and Natural Resources, actually, in that administrative role. In addition to that, I've had the opportunity on an interim basis to be the 4-H Program Leader, and now more recently as the Associate Director for Extension and Applied Research within our system. I'm certain all of you have experienced the sort of thing as I have experienced, where you have those truly outstanding colleagues, mentors, and friends who provide guidance, confidence, trust, and encouragement. I just had my coaching outside the door. It never ends. I owe a tremendous amount of gratitude to a long, long list, and I thought about starting to name those individuals, and I decided, no, I'm not going to do that, because I know I'll miss some. But I'm not here, and I think about the book by oh, good grief. I didn't write this one down, and so now I'm ad-libbing a little bit. Outliers. Who's my author? Blackwell. I feel like an outlier. Malcolm Gladwell, thank you. And he would say, you know, we all end up where we're at. Not so much, I mean, you have to take advantage of the opportunities, but the flip side says that you've got people around you supporting you all the way. And when you're in that right situation, and I thank God for all of the right situations that I've found myself in to have these opportunities. That's really how it's all happened. Okay, that's enough on me. I chose the title, Extension's Future. And then after listening to Lowell yesterday, I said, well, I've got a 47% chance to be correct. However, I'm 100% confident. When you think about Extension's future, the first question that comes to mind is, will Extension survive? Absolutely. Absolutely. We're more relevant today than we've ever been. Then the second question that comes to mind, will Extension be different? And I've actually got 3 answers for that one. Yes, maybe, and I hope not. So what do I mean by having 3 answers like that? Some of you may be familiar with the book by Simon Sinek, Start With Why. How great leaders inspire everyone to take action. If you're not familiar with that book, I'd encourage you to write it down. Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Sinek provides a compelling evidence that when people understand the why, the true purpose of what it is that they're doing, it instills a personal fulfillment in life. And he describes organizations, and I've translated those organizations to Extension, as having 3 concentric circles, if you will, to think about 3 concentric circles that will describe every organization. And that most outside circle is the what. Well, it's pretty easy to talk about the what of Extension. In my language, it's what we do that kicks up dust every day. It's what keeps us busy. And I'll submit to you that to a fault, Extension folks love to talk about what we do. Program plans, logic models, target audiences, adult education techniques, partnerships, collaborations, evaluations, seeking outcomes, on and on. And beyond that, I would say that what we do is that piece that is ever changing. But you know, honestly, when you listen to what we do, I find that our external audiences get confused in a big, big hurry. I'm not sure that it's as inspiring to them as it is amongst all of us to hear all about what we do. Sinek goes on to describe the next concentric circle inside of the what as the how we do our work. Have you ever been asked how you do your work? Ever been asked by a county commissioner, how is it that you've decided that that's your priority? It becomes a little more difficult to describe how we do our work, especially with the complexities. But I'm going to leave that one for the moment, if you will, and we'll come back to the how just a little bit later. Because then in the third part of that circle, the most innermost concentric part of that circle, Cynic points to the question of why. Understanding your why. So I've asked the question several times over this past year, why cooperative extension? You know, I do believe that extension professionals understand the why of extension, but I am going to take you through a little bit of history and maybe put it into a little more of an appropriate framework that I hope takes us back and helps us to understand the why. Why did we ever end up with the Smith-Lever Act in 1914? So who's the father of extension? Seaman Knapp. Why did he become the father of extension? If you're interested in history, the history of Seaman Knapp is fascinating, truly fascinating, and I'd encourage you to study him. Dr. Waded Cruzado from Montana State University gave the Seaman Knapp lecture at the APLU meetings, that's the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities, in 2012 in Denver. She gave that lecture, and she did a wonderful job of reviewing some of his history, and I'm going to recapture some of that, as well as a few other things about Seaman Knapp that I think are relevant to the why. Seaman Knapp was born in New York in 1833, and with some difficulty, he was able to continue his education. You see, Seaman's father wasn't very keen on college. He said it's too expensive. Tuition was a year's worth of the family income as a cabinet maker. But history tells us that Seaman's mother, who saw the passion for learning and provided the encouragement for him to pursue his education. Seaman Knapp graduated from Union College. Then while working in Vermont, he suffered an accident that destroyed his knee. And we don't know if it's the right or left, but destroyed a knee, almost crippling him for life. He was married at that time, and as a young couple, they moved on to Iowa, invested all of their savings in the finest herd of merino sheep that money could buy, only to have the entire flock die in the first winter storm. Think about those times. But better days were in store for Seaman Knapp. He was later appointed to be the head of the Department of Agriculture at Iowa State Agricultural College, and then moved on to serve as the second president of Iowa State Agricultural College. But that was for 1 year. He's an impatient man, is the other thing I would say about him. But then it was off to Louisiana, where he was to farm a tract of land down there and show others how to develop productivity in that region through different farming practices. He seemed a somewhat impatient man because he was going after this newly created U.S. Department of Agriculture and suggesting to them that their research was not rolling out fast enough to be able to adopt the kinds of things that needed to be adopted in the practice of farming in that region. He was also the driving force and advocate for the passage of the Hatch Act. The Hatch Act of 1877, creating the Agricultural Experiment Station Network. So there's a part of me that says, you know, he could be the father of the Ag Experiment Station as well as the father of extension. Having that kind of involvement and that kind of commitment all through his life. Well, at this point in time, Seaman Knapp was also a close friend of the Secretary of Agriculture and was finding himself on all kinds of assignments within USDA. And that is when the South was suffering the cotton crop failures due to the boll weevil infestation. And Seaman Knapp was again called upon to go into that region and solve the problem. This is usually the part of the story that we hear about. But an added piece to all of that. When he went in to solve the problem, all of the research had been done. USDA had already found the solutions to the boll weevil. They had all of the answers. As a matter of fact, they had all of the reports, pamphlets, and the distribution of all of that information out to the farmers. The farmers knew the solution, according to all of those documents. But not unlike any of us, they were a little skeptical because it meant drastic changes. What a challenge. I'll suggest to you that it was there that Seaman Knapp probably provided the evidence for Everett Rogers to write his chapter on the change agent in Diffusion of Innovations. For while the solution had been identified, changing farmer practices was going to take more than science. I got another book that I carry around in my pocket all the time, the Extension Workers Code. The other interesting thing is that I think Seaman Knapp, the Extension Workers Code, let me tell you a little more. It's by T.J. Talbert. It's one of our newer publications at Kansas State University, Extension Bulletin number 33, February 1922. Many of these practices of Seaman Knapp are captured within that book. If anybody wants a copy of it, send me an email. We'll get you one. Actually, tell your director that they ought to be using that book to orient all new extension faculty. Knapp's plan for change required, first of all, that he be a trusted source. Being an outsider, that's not an easy task. So what did he do? He created a program development committee at the local level, a group of advisors, farmers. Also recognizing that it meant significant change in their farming practices, that group of farmers went out and raised money to put a certain amount of dollars in the bank so that once they could find this one lead farmer who was willing to use his farm as a demonstration, they'd have a way to pay him off for all of his losses in going through that process. So, you know, raising external dollars for extension is no new thing either. They was doing it before extension even existed. But in a matter of about 3 crop seasons, Seaman Knapp had executed the program plan that resulted in farmers convincing themselves of the new practices and approaches that brought greater stability and profitability into their farming systems. And with that, the extension agent was born. Knapp is quoted as saying that the farmer must solve this problem on his own farm and with his own hands. That what a man hears, he may doubt. What he sees, he may also doubt. But what he does, he cannot doubt. I could go on and on about Seaman Knapp, and like I say, I'd encourage you to study his history. An amazing man. But I've got one more quote from Seaman Knapp, and the best I can figure is that this probably was a quote out of a speech that he was giving either in the halls of USDA or maybe over in a committee hearing in Congress. I'm not sure. But in describing his work, he said, "I'm here to create a better people, high-minded, stalwart, courageous, and brave. You are beginning at the bottom to influence the masses of mankind, and ultimately those masses always control the destiny of the country." And he goes on, "If you allow their practices to sink lower and lower, the country must ultimately drop to a lower level in moral, political, and religious tone. and we will go down to degradation and infamy as a nation. But if we begin at the bottom and plant human action upon the rock of high principles with the right cultivation of the soil, the right living for the common people, and comforts everywhere, the people will lend their support, and all civilization will arise higher and higher, and we shall become a beacon light to all nations of the world. That, I would submit to you, is the why that was driving Seaman Knapp. What a wonderful passion, and one that I know is instilled in each and every one of you as well. But do you believe that that is the why of that USDA researcher? I would suggest to you that the researchers came up with the solution to the boll weevil, and that was the why that they were driving after, was to create that solution. Seaman Knapp's purpose was to create a better people. That was his why. So should the why of extension change? For that matter, what is the why in today's cooperative extension? What is our purpose? Well, I still believe in the words that are expressed in the Extension Professionals' Creed. And to paraphrase that, we believe all people should have the opportunity to improve their life and their livelihood. We further believe educational experiences and opportunities are the best way in which to truly change for the better. And to that end, extension brings science, discovery, knowledge, practice, and understanding to create solutions to big issues. But the best part of all of that, those solutions are their solutions, not ours. I am here to suggest to you that the why is and should remain a constant. In my answer to that question, will extension be different? That's where my answer is, I hope not. I still believe that why represents our driving force within the extension community. But you know, isn't it interesting when you think about the why? It isn't about agriculture, natural resources, family and consumer sciences, 4-H youth development, community development. It's not about, any of those. Our why is bigger than that. It's about changing people, changing communities, society, in such ways as to lift them to a better place, and to do it in such a way that it truly does become their solutions. Okay, I'm now ready to go back to how. If we're going to create a better people and improve their lives and their livelihood, how are we going to do that? I challenge you to begin thinking big in your community or in your county or in your state, to think about it nationally. What is it that is holding back prosperity, quality of life, and pursuits that would lift up your community? Thinking of community in the broadest context. Sort of takes me back to T.J. Talbert in the Extension Workers Code. If I open that one up to page 15, for all of you that happen to have that with you, my Kansas delegation, I'm sure. T.J. Talbert. Hey, Deborah, thank you. Oh, we got another one back there. Excellent. Have a vision. Keep your eye on the big things. These are the headlines over the paragraphs. Do the things which will count. Finish what you start. be courageous. That's a few of those headings. There's a few other ones in there that you enjoy as well. Smoke at the proper time and place. Wear appropriate dress. Watch your bank account. Tremendous resource. So now back to the how. How are we going to respond to our purpose, to our why? You know, I think that's probably the biggest, the most important aspect of our work. Recognizing where our priorities are at and understanding how it is that we can truly help our communities and our society, lifting them up. So how might be defining grand challenges? And we heard grand challenges yesterday in Dr. Ramaswamy's presentation. It's grand challenges that may be facing you from a local perspective, your community, your county, your state, region, or it may be the nation. The how is also a way in which to reflect on the way we interact with our clientele, stakeholders, partners, and the public's experience with Extension. So now just a bit about Kansas here. In Kansas, we define how as doing everything possible towards being relevant, reliable, and responsive towards 5 grand challenges that face Kansans. Those 5 grand challenges for Kansas include water, health, feeding the world, community vitality, and growing tomorrow's leaders. They're simple, they're broad, and they were created by and with our stakeholders. When asked why Extension should exist in Kansas, our stakeholders frame it by saying, we expect you to help us in those 5 grand challenges. Help us to figure those out. Just a few years back, ECOP, everyone know what ECOP is? Extension's Committee on Organization and Policy. The flip side is to say it's Cooperative Extension's National Governing Board. ECOP commissioned a marketing and communications initiative, and a task force was created. And from that work, I find some pretty interesting ways to think about how we do our work. Extension success is dependent on our value proposition, the value that users describe about us. It's not the way in which we describe ourselves, but how users describe us. As another way of thinking about how. Users will say Extension is a resource you can trust. You can be confident that experts have reviewed and developed programs to ensure that you get the best information for your needs. I hope you've heard these things before as messages that came out from the work of that Communications and Marketing Task Force. Extension employees and volunteers work hard at improving the quality of life within communities. Extension is friendly, caring, trusted, committed, approachable, down to earth, practical, informed, and knowledgeable. Extension is relaxed and friendly, but also knowledgeable and informative. And Extension uses everyday language that everyone will understand. And that's what those who know us have said about us. For me, it kind of causes me to well up in pride. But then I also think about, and I hope you all understand, that it's not about entitlements for past greatness. It's about living up to those kinds of standards of how we accomplish our work. So then I come back to the question, will Extension change when it comes to how? Yeah, maybe. I suspect that some of you maybe thought that the how would be demonstrations, meetings, social media, radio, workshops, newsletters, short courses, facilitations, collaborations, grants, contracts, fees-based program, and so on and so forth. Folks, that's the what. That's the stuff we love to talk about. That's the what. And that's the part that changes for us all the time. All the time. Will extension be different in the future? Our purpose, our why, remains constant. Our how may be changing some, but if measured by what we do, our simple answer is yes. So how should we tell people about extension? If you're like me, my usual way of telling someone who really doesn't know anything about extension and wants to know, so what is it that you guys do? I usually start out, well, Extension's an organization. It's tied to Kansas State University, and it's got local extension professionals and staff who work with regional and state staff in designing and delivering educational programs relating to ag, natural resources, families, communities, and youth. We work through advisory committees to define priorities and then organize meetings. And usually by that time I look at them and they're all glazed over. So that's when I come back and I say, well, you've probably heard of 4-H. And they usually go, yep. And then, so, the county fair? Oh, yeah. Yep. I really haven't told them anything at that point in time. Inspiring? No, mostly confusing. So in Simon Sinek's approach, flipping that to describe yourself. I went to work on that one, and here's what I come up with. Extension provides practical education that you can trust. Our business is to help people, businesses, and communities to solve problems, develop skills, and build a better future. Our focus in our state, in Kansas, is on solving some grand challenges. Those grand challenges are around water, health, feeding the world, vitalizing our communities, and growing tomorrow's leaders. We are Kansas State University in your local community, and we have all kinds of opportunities for you to get involved in making serious progress on those grand challenges. Care to join us? Positioning extension, thank you. Positioning extension for success is about connecting purpose, the why, with the approach, the how, as we set out to do what we do. It's about lifting up communities through innovation and creativity and making it better for all. It's about inclusion. It's about being pertinent, germane, and material to solving the grand challenges. It's about providing value beyond expectation. It's about trust and integrity. It's about going beyond being an informational resource to one that seeks to identify the underlying causes of the problematic issues and helps clients to find appropriate resources and methods to address those issues. It's about being a leader in your community by continuously seeking to improve your leadership and knowledge skills. Thank you for being here at this professional development opportunity. Positioning extension for success. It's about being educators who continually strive to improve your knowledge of education theory and your ability to develop, implement, assess, and improve upon effective education programs. It's about being problem solvers and recognizing that modern problems are becoming increasingly complex. It's about continuously working to develop subject matter expertise within an extension programming area that is in high demand among your constituents. It's about recognizing that specialization enables the extension professional to progress beyond being the unbiased resource for information to being the unbiased expert in a highly needed field or endeavor. It's about the extension professional being a great networker and a great communicator with your extension colleagues, especially those who specialize in subject matter disciplines different from yours, so that when you are faced with an issue needing expertise beyond the scope of your expertise, having this kind of a collegial network will enable you as an extension professional to align the best assistance by referring a client to a colleague who has the required subject matter specialization. Cooperative extension has every kind of challenge out in front. I'm not going to deny any of that. I simply believe if we hold up on our purpose, our why, with pride and confidence as we explain how we are working to solve grand challenges, that opportunities will come before us. As we embark upon our celebration of 100 years since the signing of the Smith-Lever Act, 100 years since the creation of cooperative extension, let's take this opportunity to creatively express our purpose, our why. I challenge each of you to work on being able to communicate extension's why in your community with your stakeholders. And I'm going to close now with a passage from Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Organizations who forget their why, forget why they were founded, show up to the race every day to outdo someone else instead of to outdo themselves. The pursuit for those who lose sight of why is for the medal or to beat someone else. If we all take some responsibility to start with why and inspire others to do the same, then together we can change the world. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for this award.